If you don't mind, I'd like to maybe dive into a little bit of your history a bit more, because I think coming from the Congo is so fascinating, and I don't think a lot of people, particularly in Australia, really understand what that must have been like for you to come from a place, embroiled in civil war. So you were from Kinshasa, is that right?
Correct, the capital Kinshasa. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about what maybe daily life was like? Just to understand maybe a bit better, when did you actually leave the Congo?
So the travel actually started from the Congo, and I think I was 6 years old when I left.
So
Congo.
do you have much of a memory of?
I do.
You do?
I still, if it still looks the same, I still remember a lot of the streets,
right,
and so forth. So one thing that I've realized is being a child in Australia or being a child in a Western country and being a child in Africa is completely different.
I'll bet. And that's sort of what I want to be able to understand.
Because what you have to do as a child matures you very quickly.
Yes.
Right? And so a lot more responsibility, a lot more things to do. If you have to go and sell to make money, you have to go and help your parents. And so all that things that I had to do as a child meant that I'm still a kid, but when push comes to shove and you gotta help family, you gotta help family.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're still a kid, but you're out there looking for ways to help the family, looking for ways to help this and help that. So when I left Congo, I was about 6 years old. So I still vividly remember the streets, a house, remember the walkway, remember the school, how I need,
what were some of the duties that you had to do as, say, a 6-year-old to try and help your family? Was it working? Was it collecting water? I mean, I don't know, what was its day-to-day sort of life for you?
So in Congo, I was actually well taken care of. We did some chores and so forth and helped family out, but it wasn't as much as when I left Congo, which I was 6 years old,
right,
and went to a country called Cameroon.
Yep.
And
as a refugee.
Right. So leaving my own country and going to the Cameroon, that's when life got difficult.
So that's really hard for me to sort of understand, because I would understand you're trying to leave the Congo to improve your life. Is that right? What was the reasons for leaving the Congo? Was it the civil war?
Correct.
And what brought about the civil war? Was it because I remember hearing about, like, I'm old enough to remember the Rwandan genocide in the early 90s between the Tutsis and the Hutus, I think it was. Did that spill over into where you were, or is
there is a bit of collide between Rwanda and the Congo, and if you're Congolese, everybody knows a bit about that. But most of Congo's problems is political.
Right.
So especially when we have to exchange from one government to another. So now
the transfer of power, it's always violent, correct, is it? And
I'm not always. It's much better now.
Right.
It's much better now. Much settled. We've come a long way.
Okay.
But back then, it was a bit tricky because I think we had a president called Mobutu he was a good leader, but he was also a dictator.
Right.
Right. And when he left, and then Kabila came through, and not to get too political about what took place there, but there was a change between Kabila the father to Kabila the son, and Kabila the father was very huge on protecting Congo and the minerals. A large part of what the wars are in Congo has to do with minerals,
right?
Because it's one of the richest countries in the world.
Yep.
Right, and minerals means war, because every country is trying to take a piece.
Yep.
Right. I won't even list the names of countries, but if you go and do your research, you'll find out that you'll see some names and be like, oh, that makes sense, and then you see some other countries and be like, well, I'm surprised even they're part of it.
Yep.
So
and they're essentially taking resources out of the Congo.
Correct.
Yep.
So
they're resource rich, but poor as a country, essentially.
Correct.
Yep.
And it always hurts me when I see my country like that. A lot of the Western countries are there, like they're all there. A lot of this, for example, the phones we're using right now, like cobalt is one of the highest in the Congo.
Yep.
Right, all the technology you're using right now, it's coming from the Congo. People don't know that. Well, how was it mine? People don't know that. They don't know what had to happen for it to get mined.
Is it children mining it a lot of the time, or
Yeah, it's all sorts of stuff, but
it's horrible conditions?
the conditions are horrible, and the country doesn't make benefits from it.
So is that because the government, is that because of corruption, or is it that the Congo government doesn't have any, I guess, bargaining power, to try and keep some of those resources, that they're negotiating with these companies?
One way I see it is that because of colonization, a lot of things were done by the back door. Let me give you an example. If you've got power over me, and you've had it for 400 years or so forth, right? And you've been able to just come to my house and take what you want when you want. And then suddenly, we get democracy, we get civilization and so forth, and the power comes back in house, and I stand up and I say to you, hey, you can't just keep coming and taking everything you want. Well, that becomes a problem, because for many years you've been able to do it. For generations you've been able to do it.
Yep.
How can I suddenly tell you can't do it anymore? Because it's become part of your routine.
Yep.
You can see there's a country called Niger that France used to depend a lot on.
Right.
A lot in terms of minerals, obviously for power. And so the Niger government they just stood up and say, hey, no more. No more taking our resources, no more. And as a result of that, they went weeks and weeks without power, and they're still struggling. So there's a bit of a dance there, where one is to do with power, because a lot of these countries are just starting to build up. They don't have that level of power as to someone like the US, or for example. One is to do with power, two is to do with resources, and then there is also a bit of corruption there. But because I always say is for someone to come and steal from your house, someone from within has to be the traitor.
Right.
Right. And I hate to say it like that, but if I'm going to come take from your house, the door's got to be left open. Someone from within is benefiting also.
Right.
And it's not hard to get someone from within to benefit, because if the country is in poverty and you just offer someone, hey, look, take a meal.
Yep.
He's like, okay, me and my family are good. The country might be in a bad state, but me and my family are good. Cool. Here's how you get through.
Sure.
And so it's obviously more than just that. I'm just giving you a quick summary.
Yeah, no, that'll make sense. Yep.
Hopefully people don't take it out of context, but all I'm saying is there's a lot of things that are playing a part. Sure. And the big thing is minerals. If there was no minerals there, none of the 10 troubles that are happening in the Congo wouldn't have been happening.
Right.
So the best way to go is what we're trying to do now. So that was the past.
Right.
But now, a lot of the Western countries are starting to open up, and China and so forth starting to open up, looking for ways to negotiate with the country so that the country also benefits.
On fairer terms.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to get to that level, but it's a progress. And so individuals like myself, one thing that we're always thinking about is that, hey, if Australia wants to do a trade with the Congo, how should we help them go about it, right? And how can we open doors? Because we know the culture here, we know what's going on here. We also know the Congo, and we are becoming those individuals that are holding knowledge of both sides, and we're able to mediate between the two. So that's probably one of the path that one day I'll probably take into, be willing to go into, to find out how we can mediate. And Congo's got the resources. Australia might have the finance, they might have the process, and might have connections and so forth. So, okay, hey, look, how do we come together? This is what you got, this is what we got. How do we do a fair exchange? So that both parties benefit.
Right.
And the Middle East, some of the countries in the Middle East have been able to do that exceptionally well. The UAE with their oil and so forth, they've found out a way to trade so that the company benefit, so that the countries benefit just as much as they exchange, right? And so going back to my story, I hope that was a bit.
No, that was really interesting. That's great stuff.
So going back to my story from Congo to Cameroon, and Cameroon is where things got real hard. Because we're trying to escape what was going on in the Congo, and we're trying to find a better life. You get there, it's not your country. You're trying to find out what's going on.
How did the people of Cameroon treat you guys? Are you interacting with them, or are you put in like a camp, or how did that process work?
So my dad was very good in trying to still find a good life for us. So we didn't go to a camp. He found this tiny house for us in the capital Yaoundé.
Okay.
And that's actually some of the best memories that I have is from Cameroon. Because it's funny, right? And I always say this. When you're in the Western country, you look back in Africa and you're like, people in poverty, they're struggling. But those memories are probably the best memories ever. Looking back at that time, the happiest kid. Could go 1 week, 2 weeks without food, it makes no difference. We're playing football with our shoes on the street. We're playing, sharing everything. It's communal. It's a community. Everybody, like if you don't have onion, hey, have my onion. You don't have tomato, oh, have my tomato. And it's a huge community. Everybody knows themselves in the street. Everybody's friends with everybody. There's less drama. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. I always say that when I look at the Western world, we're great with finance, we're great with creating opportunities and so forth. But one thing that I realized when I got to Australia was the separation between one another. And I'll tell you what I mean. When we arrived here in Australia, I reached out to my friends that were in school. Hey, let's catch up. Hey, let's go ride a bike. Oh, I'm on my Xbox. I was like, come on, man.
Yep.
Join me online.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happens to coming together, playing together? Come straight from school, go outside on the streets, empty streets. It was a change in culture.
How old are you, Joel?
Right now?
Yep.
27.
27. See, I'm 37. So I remember, I've seen that change within Australia.
Oh, you actually witnessed that?
I witnessed it because I remember playing in the early 90s out in the street through the late 90s when things like PlayStation, Nintendo 64, the electronic sort of home entertainment systems really grew. And then the turn of the century was when everyone got really fast internet. And that changed everything because instead of, it went from playing in the streets to then playing, say, a PlayStation or a Nintendo at your friend's house. So like, you could play 4 players all in the same room. Yeah. So even though you were still playing with electronic entertainment, you were all still in the same room playing together. But then it shifted from everyone getting really fast internet and having their own entertainment system at home, like you say, join me online. Yeah. So I noticed that shift in real time. Like I saw that sort of happen
that would have been
Australia.
Interesting for you.
It was, yeah. And I mean, I didn't really notice it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play the Xbox, on fast internet. Like I wanted to do all these things. Like as they transitioned, so I wasn't really didn't take a step back and sort of look at the situation as it was happening. It was just happening around me. So yeah, that's really, really fascinating that you've sort of seen that coming from a different culture, coming to the West and noticing that difference.
Oh, that hit me as a shocker straight away. And I was like, it's not the same. There's all this stuff, but where's the connection?